welcome to the Murder, She Wrote Rewatch podcast. We're back again, and we're going to be taking a look at the next episode, which is entitled It's a Dog's Life. Now, this episode is extremely amusing. There's a lot of really cool things in here. But first off, I didn't find this out until like almost the episode was over, where it was taking place. And the only reason I found out where it was taking place was because in the court, or not the court, the coroner, because there's a coroner's inquest that's happening towards the end, there's a banner type sign talking about Greenville, Virginia. That's where this takes place. So we'll do the murder tally later. I actually forgot to do it the last time, but we'll do the murder tally a little bit later. But we will do the relative tally because there's another relative of Jessica Fletcher in this one. A woman by the name of Abby Benton Freestone, who is the cousin of Miss Jessica Fletcher. And it's kind of interesting. Our wonderful episode starts off with the usual bits and pieces of what's coming up in the episode. It's very, very amusing. It gets going into the fun little you see a lot of pardon me. You see a lot of countryside being shown, and horses, and then a set of horse stables, because this is taking place on a very well-to-do horse ranch. You see it zero in on a horse whose name is Sawdust, and there is somebody who comes up wearing gloves and boots. It's a woman's hand, and ends up feeding Sawdust some pill along with some other treats with some ominous music. All you see is like the hand. Then it goes inside the manor, and there's a party going on. Lots of people in top hats and red coats for like fox hunting, and the ladies are wearing like caps and black coats to match. It's one of those things. You get to see a few characters show up here. There's a man and a woman flirting and having fun, and this is one of the main characters here. Let's see now. We'll go to the IMDb, and we have a Trish Langley is the one that's flirting with a married man. Oh my. And having herself a drink or two. She's a little bit of a lush, that one. She's played by Lenore Kasdorf. And apparently, Lenore Kasdorf is well known. She's known for Santa Barbara, which is a soap, I believe. She apparently plays Mrs. Rico in Starship Troopers, the mother of the main character, I believe. She's in a Chuck Norris movie, Missing in Action, and she was in Cellular in a minor role back in 2004. That seems to be her last acting credit was in Cellular back in 2004. She hasn't done anything past that. What else has she been in? NYPD Blue, High Incident TV series. I don't know that one. She was an ISN reporter in 3 episodes of Babylon 5 in 1994. If any of you have seen that. She also played Lauren in Star Trek The Next Generation. And she played 4 4 different characters in Murder She Wrote. She was Trish Langley in this one, and then she was someone in an episode 2 years later in 1986, 1 year later in 1987, and then 5 years later in 1992. Interesting. Beth Fox, she was in 4 episodes of Coach. I remember watching Coach. That was a fun one. Oh yeah, she's been in a lot of TV. Very big TV actress, I believe. 21 Jump Street, Pam Daniels. Maybe you guys might know that. So yeah, she's been in a lot of shows that I remember the names of. God, I feel old now. But yes, she is one of our suspects. You also see another fellow, Spencer Langley, played by actor Jared Martin. His last role was in 2003. He is most known for, wow, he was in Dallas for a number of years as Dusty Farlow. Dr. Robert Anderson in Enigma, which is A-E, like the A and E together, Enigma. War of the Worlds, Harrison Blackwood, which was a TV series for 3 years. One Life to Live, he was Dr. Donald Lamar for a while. Silk Stockings. Yeah, he also played. Oh, okay. He played 2 roles in Murder She Wrote. One was Spencer Langley in this episode, and the other was 2 years later. He played Arthur Houston in the episode Magnum on Ice, which is the 2-parter that crosses over with Magnum PI. So I will be seeing you again, sir. Yeah, he's done a lot of TV stuff too. Not as much as the other lady. Not as much as her. Actor, director, producer. That's his actor. He's probably got more stuff in director, I think. Nope. Not really. But he plays Spencer Langley. Then you get to see another young lady. Echo. Echo Kramer is her name. She's played by, I think it's Cherie Curry, because it's Cherie. I think it's Cherie Curry. She is a pretty young woman with very big, like 80s hair. She's got these big 80s hair. And she is... Oh yeah, she's done stuff recently. Although not... That's a bit of a jump there. Doesn't have a lot of roles. Only 9 credits. She's only played this character in Murder, She Wrote. She was in a movie, the Twilight Zone movie. She was in a show called, I think a movie called Parasite, one called Foxes, one called Wavelength, one called the Rosebud Beach Hotel, one called Rich Girl. She played Renee Thornton and Betsy Rhodes in Renee Thornton in 2 episodes of Matlock, and Betsy Rhodes in another episode of Matlock. And that was in like 1991. And then she wasn't in anything else acting until 2013, when she was in Hansel and Gretel, Warriors of Witchcraft, which I don't even... Is that supposed to be based off of the... It might be. Oh my... What? In the... Uh, apparently, there's an actor called Boo Boo Stewart. Boo Boo Stewart and Fievel Stewart. That might be an actress. Nope, that's an actor. Boo Boo Stewart. Hansel and Gretel, Warriors of Witchcraft, everybody. So, that's a thing. That's a thing. Boo Boo Stewart? Oh my god. Oh my god. Uh, where was I? So you get to see them. Uh, Spencer there is basically taking Trish to task for drinking and flirting with a married man. Echo is very cold towards, I think, the both of them. And she moves off. And then Echo's mother comes by, who is the sister of Spencer, and is immediately talking about astral projection is better than anything. Spencer tells her to like stay on this planet, and what's her face? The name Morgana Kramer, played by Catherine Damon. I saw the name in the credits, and I'm like, Catherine Damon, is that like Matt Damon? Probably not. She passed away in 1987. So only a couple years after this was, yeah, because this was out in 1984, and she passed away in 1987. Her last acting credit was 1988 because it would be I know what I know what I want to say, but it's it's not coming. It would have been filmed in 87 but not released until 88. She is most well known for Mary Campbell in the uh, comedy soap opera of Soap, which anybody who knows anything about comedy shows back in the day will know Soap. She was Cassie Parker on all 50 episodes of Webster, the TV series. Those are two of the big ones that she's done. She was on Fantasy Island, only the one episode of Murder She Wrote, an episode of Matlock. Good old Matlock. She was Gail Bainbridge in She's Having a Baby, 1988. That's her last acting credit. Who Will Love My Children, 1983. Hazel Anderson TV movie. So she's been in a few things. I remember seeing her now that I'm looking at her picture here, because it's right from Soap, and I've seen a couple episodes of that. So yeah, she's got the whole astral projection tea leaves thing. Next thing, it cuts to a picture of a horse, a painting, and there's an older fellow talking about the withers of the horse and how the painter knew horse flesh, and the older fellow is there flirting with Miss Fletcher as they talk back and forth. Just a little bit of light flirting. I don't think he's actually interested in her, but he's just being a light flirting. Oh wow! I didn't even notice that the first time. Because as they were coming in, uh, the first time I watched it, I'm kind of looking at it again so I can remember and what happened. They've actually got the camera actually pans and you can see tape marks on the floor for where the actors are supposed to stand. They panned the camera a little too low on that. But as they come in and they take their places, another older gentleman comes out. And we'll look at those two gentlemen's wonderful track records of who they were. Denton Langley is the one that was flirting with her. Dan O'Hurley. Dan O'Hurley. I think that's it. Oh wow, he only passed away in 2005 at the ripe old age of 85, and he's been in a shit ton of stuff. Uh, best known for RoboCop. He was the old man in RoboCop. He was in a movie called Failsafe back in 1964. Um, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. He was Conal Cochran. Uh, oh, wow. Okay. Okay. He was Grigg in The Last Starfighter. Yeah, that's awesome. That is just awesome. He was in the TV series The Pirates of Dark Water. He did additional voices. Um, he was Andrew Packard in Twin Peaks, if any of you have seen that particular one. What else has he been in? Yeah, the old man in RoboCop and RoboCop 2. He was Denton Langley and Alexander Preston in an episode of Murder She Wrote 2 years after the first one here. No, don't think any of you guys know those ones. Yeah, we're getting back into it. Oh, the man from Uncle, Professor David Garrow, Captain Rupert Oliver Morton, and Marshall Rudolph in the Man from Uncle TV series. Hmm. Lots of stuff. He's done lots of acting all throughout the years. But yeah, the wow, the Last Starfighter. That's amazing. That's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I do like that one. And there's another fellow, the friend, who comes up, Tom Cassidy, played by Forrest Tucker, passed away in 1986. So just uh, couple years after this episode, and he's known for a lot of older roles. F Troop. He was Sergeant Morgan O'Rourke. Only in the one episode of Murder She Wrote. And yeah, a lot of older stuff like The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Real American Hero. The original TV series SWAT. The Ghostbusters TV series. Wait. The Ghostbusters TV series. Oh. That's the not the Ghostbusters, um but the old TV show that the cartoon was based off that had the two guys and the gorilla. I'm sure you've seen it. He was in that. Okay, that makes sense. I thought he looked familiar. But anyways, that all happens. They go have a nice little chat, and you find out how things are going to begin. Um, One more lady comes out uh, that ends up meeting with them. Uh, Abby was it Abby Benton Freestone, who just so happens to be Jessica's cousin that I mentioned. And Jessica's cousin is played by Lynn Redgrave. And Lynn Redgrave has been in a couple things. A couple things. What has she been in? Well, let's have a look-see. She's the last actor. Um, she was Aunt Millicent in 2003's Peter Pan. Hannah, 1998, Gods and Monsters. Is that what I think it is? The last days of Frankenstein are explored. Interesting. Uh, oh wow, she apparently played Olivia Guillemette in Ugly Betty, 2009. She played Emily Huntford in an episode of Criminal Intent, Law and Order. What else has she been in? The White Countess, Kinsey. She was in that movie. The Final Interview Subject. The Wild Thornberries. She was Cordelia in 2 episodes of that. Rude Awakening TV series. She was Trudy Frank for the whole thing. The Nanny. Lynn Redgrave. She was in that show, The Nanny. I remember The Nanny. If I think it's, yeah, that's the one with Fran Drescher. That's The Nanny. That's the one. Maddie Pierce in the TV series Chicken Soup. Not too many other stuffs that I would know her as. Fantasy Island, House Calls. She was in that show. Teachers Only. She was in that show. Sentinel TV miniseries. She was in that. Stuff that I don't know. But she is Jessica's cousin, who has invited her here to spend the day, which is why Jessica is on this big old acreage, and everyone's going horse riding. We get to see Trisha going to get on her horse after half drinking a drink and throwing the rest away on the ground. Jessica's cousin Abby goes and tries to say you shouldn't drink and ride a horse because you could hurt yourself and hurt the horse. She obviously doesn't have a lot of respect for Abby. Then Mr. Denton, Mr. Denton Langley, goes and has brought horses for the ladies, for Abby and for Jessica. And Jessica is immediately drawn to the gray one and says that, this gray one looks to be my speed. The gray one being Sawdust, the one we saw getting fed a pill. At which Denton is like, no, that's Sawdust. He's mine because he's the only horse here, old enough that he's not going to move past a trot. So he's perfect for me. Then we see the good old Denton calling on the intercom to a guard in the guard room to open the gate. And there's a row of buttons, each labeled gate 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the guard presses one of the buttons. And all the horses and all the people go out. And they're all riding around. The dogs are running ahead. Bark, 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 bark. It's all a good time. Beautiful scenic shots of the country going on here. And things progress as they're going along. There's a little bit of a discussion between Abby and Denton. And I believe Trish is the one that goes and runs, gallops the horse past Denton, or her horse, which spooks Sawdust, and Sawdust starts rearing and then gallops off. The special effects to making it look like the horse is riding fast, the close-up shot of Denton's body, you can tell that he's not actually on a horse. And we get a moment that's not exactly supposed to be comedic, but it is, because his horse is running off. It's a tense moment. There's music playing. Everyone's like running, like riding their horses after, trying to catch up to him. And his horse ends up going to jump over this bench and hedge. And it's this slow motion jump where you hear him going, "Tally-ho!" Which really isn't meant to be comedic, but it is. The next thing we see, he's laying on the ground. Uh, Abby and Jessica are there. They're like Jessica's consoling Abby. Uh, Tom, the friend of Denton, comes over, and Abby kind of clings to him for a bit and cries a little. There's a young officer named Will, and then there's the sheriff and the vet who show up, and there's a suggestion from Jessica and the others about getting the horse tested because they suspect foul play. So there's going to be a little bit of a test there that happens. Meanwhile, everyone else is being the family is being brought in the police car for questioning. Then we get a scene change to Abby's home, where Jessica is basically saying, well, I was wrong. The test didn't reveal anything in the horse. And Abby's like, well, that doesn't really prove anything. The horse was gone for hours before we found it. There are drugs that can be out of the system by then. She doesn't believe that that his death was an accident, even though they're more or less looking to rule it as such. And Jessica offers to stay for a couple more days to help her, at least until the reading of the will. Because there is going to be a will. Then we cut to the day of the will reading, of course, as the family, Trish and Spencer and Morgana and Echo and Tom are all sitting around having some drinks, waiting for the will to be read. And of course, Morgana is all freaking out because her tea leaves are saying something to her and no one else is believing her at all. And who should arrive but the lawyer to read the will? And this is one other actor that I need to look up because I forgot about him. I don't know why I forgot about him, but I forgot about him. So we're going to look him up because he is an actor that's been in a lot of stuff. Let us see. Boop boop ba doo doo. Click click. There we go. There's the lawyer's name, Marcus Boswell, played by Dean Jones, who sadly passed away in 2015 at the age of 84. Lived to be a good old age. He's been in everything. He's apparently known for The Love Bug, that old one. He was in Clear and Present Danger as Judge Moore. Ensign O'Toole as the titular character. He was Dr. Varnick in Beethoven. But he's been in all kinds of stuff. The Superman TV series, Colonel Sam Lane. Nowhere Man TV series, Jonathan Crane. Yeah, George Newton in the Beethoven TV series. Harry Bannister in Saved by the Bell Hawaiian Style, the TV movie. He was also in another episode of Murder, She Wrote in 4 years later. Harbinger of Death. That particular one, he played Leonard Palmer in that. We'll get to see him soon enough. Herbie the Love Bug, the TV series. Jim Douglas, he was that character. That's where I remember seeing him. The Chicago Teddy Bears. Link McRae. Don't know that one. That's back in 71. He's been in a lot of comedy type shows, I find. As far as I remember. A lot of the stuff he's been in like the comedy stuff for the most part, which is cool. which is cool. Huh. But he shows up. He's the lawyer, and he's there to make sure the will is read and officiate it, and so on and so forth. And what does the will say? Well, everyone arrives there for the will, and he ends up pulling out a VHS tape, and they're like, what is that? And he's like, it's the latest in will technology, which was a really cheesy line. And then we see the videotape of the late Denton officiating his will, that he's going to give his friend Tom a shotgun that he's always wanted. He's going to give a bunch of paintings to a museum, and the guard is going to be getting a little something extra for guarding all those paintings. The rest of the family is going to be getting a small trust, and every other penny that he has of the rest of the estate, some $15 million, is going to be going to his best friend, Teddy the dog. At which point, there is quite a bit of a stir that they're going to challenge the will and break it, and etc., etc. To which the lawyer ends up replying that he actually has the written will down, and if they challenge the will, then they get nothing. They are written out of the will. There's a clause in the will that says that. Next thing we see, it's cut over to. He also mentions, I should say, that should Teddy die of anything other than natural causes, every penny of the estate goes to the SPCA. Then we cut to Jessica, where she's calling up Ethan, who you may remember from other episodes, and is staying a few days. We see Trish, or not Trish. Is it Trish or Echo? It might be Trish, who is riding a horse. Yeah, it's Trish, and apparently doesn't go the way she's supposed to. Or no, it is Echo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, because that's blonde hair, it looks like. But she's riding a horse and ends up not jumping because she's got the reins too tight. She doesn't know what she's doing exactly. And then she just starts whipping the horse with a riding crop. And Abby, of course, stands up for the horse and is like, you shouldn't be hitting that. And Spencer is, of course, letting her know that she's here to train horses, not riders. Just some wonderful little. The actors are definitely pulling off in this episode. The fact that they're all kind of at each other's throats. Before Abby leaves, Morgana, who was watching, ends up going and warning Abby that the signs are all there and that she's probably going to die soon, it seems like. And as that conversation is finishing, we hear a scream. We see a horse running out of a barn and barking as the dog tries to bite Spencer. The dog kind of gets calmed down, and we find out that somebody drugged the dog to induce that to happen, and that there was the possibility of him having bitten someone. And the sheriff pulls up with an older fella who looks like a farmer who claims that the dog bit him. Like, he's the one that attacked me. That dog needs to be put down. So, oh, how convenient. Somebody's discrediting the dog. Uh, the lawyer is then called by Abby, and the lawyer got the dog released on his own recognizance, and that she can pick it up at the sheriff's office at any time, because naturally, we see Abby and Jessica going out, having a little bit of a conversation as to what's been going on. We hit the law offices of Mr. Boswell with Jessica and Abby and Teddy the dog. And Boswell comes out talking to another lawyer from Washington about a loophole that was found, followed by Echo. Or no, Morgana. Sorry. Who also comes out of the office. They all go in, sit down, have a little talk with Mr. Boswell, finding out that there is a potential loophole for the will, but it'll be a long and bloody battle if they try it. We also get a call, or Boswell, I should say, the lawyer, gets a call from his broker about money. Something about money going on there. Then we see the guard in the guard room, and Teddy comes by, and the guard lets him in and is petting him and watching the monitor as a car comes drunkenly weaving up to the gates, and a woman in a coat goes and stumbles out of the car to buzzes on the intercom, the guard opens the gate, and we see the woman in the big fur coat go and flop down. And we're pretty sure it's Trish. So the guard goes and puts the dog down on the chair, leaves the room, goes to help the lady out, and we see the guard heading down towards the gate. And as he's getting there, the gates are closing. And he's like, oh no! And he goes and runs toward the body, trying to yell at her, wake her up, as the gates are closing right on the girl's head. Big mechanical gates killed her. It doesn't show anything, but the gates supposedly closed on her and crushed her. And next, right after that, you see a picture of the dog in the control room with the tail wagging, pawing at the control board. The dog has committed murder. Dun dun dun. Next thing we see, they're of course fingerprinting the button that closed the gate. The police are there having an investigation. Morgana is claiming to have seen her sister's ghost ascending to heaven or something. And no one's going to believe her. The lawyer ends up showing up to talk to everybody. And the sheriff. Jessica goes out to have a look around because, because Jessica is, of course, Jessica, and she's going to do that. And of course, the sheriff is saying that that there was a print on the button, but it wasn't a fingerprint; it was a paw print. And of course, the family is like, well, that immediately breaks the will. He's a murderer. The dog committed murder, and the lawyer is like, oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? That'd be super convenient. And he's like, you can't seriously believe a dog is capable of murder. At which point Abby, who is cradling the dog, is like, well, of course not. There's no way a dog could push the button on the control. You'd have to train them. And everyone kind of goes silent. Tom ends up driving up And Jessica meets him and has a little discussion with him. Just a small little thing. You see the men with metal detectors looking around, and Jessica goes and offers to help fold the fur coat for the young officer who's trying to put it in an evidence bag. And of course, Jessica notices at that point that the seams on the inside of the coat have been pulled, uh, or torn. You know, just like one that she has worn for years, instead of it being brand new like this coat is. So Jessica helps him fold it up, and ends up befriending the young police officer, who looks quite handsome and debonair, dashing as it is. I wonder if his name is it. Yeah, Deputy Will Roxy, Byron Cherry. What has Byron Cherry done? Oh my God. Well, all right then. Apparently, he was Coy Duke in the Dukes of Hazzard. The Dukes of Hazzard. Wow. What's he done recently? Burning Rubber TV series, Byron Cherry as himself, I guess. Um, in the Heat of the Night, the Dukes TV series, uh, which is apparently, I guess, a cartoon where they drive around in other countries, because there's like the Dukes in Scotland, the Dukes in Hong Kong, the Dukes in Uzbekistan. Okay. So yeah, he was like the Dukes of Hazzard, and then that cartoon series, and after that, then he did an episode of Murder She Wrote, and a few other things. He's only got like 12 acting credits to his name. So apparently Coy Duke is like one of his biggest known roles, which I guess is, accurate. But he definitely has that pretty face. I guess this was the, oh, I bet he played Coy Duke. Yeah, that was Coy Duke after Bo and Luke Duke were in prison for a little while, or had to go away. They had the cousins come in. I guess. It's been a while since I've seen that. Huh? Nice. So yeah, they end up having a little discussion, and of course he just lets her poke around the crime scene because she's a nice old lady. Nobody suspects anything there. Um, then she has a discussion with the guard about anything he saw or heard, and he mentions hearing like some crickets and a night bird. Nothing unusual. Um, she gets the guard to show her Morgana's room because Morgana had mentioned having the only clear view of the driveway. She goes and looks out in the thing, sees the driveway and whatnot, and then finds Abby and makes a comment about, I knew I'd find you here because in times of stress, the English always go for tea, because Abby has an English accent. They're just sitting down for tea, and in walks Mr. Boswell, the lawyer, looking for the ice bucket because they need some drinks. Um, he goes and climbs up to get the ice bucket, and that's when she notices he's got grease all over his trousers, and he says, "Oh, that just came from when I had to change a flat tire, about a half a mile down the road from here, on the way here." She gets that information out of him, and was basically like, anyone would have to have gotten past you in order to leave then. And he's like, that's right. but I never saw anyone. In which place the killer is still in the house. Dun dun dun. You hear people yelling for the ice, so he goes and grabs some into the ice bucket. Jessica offers to help him clean that, and he's like, no, no, that's fine. This suit needs to be dry cleaned anyway. I'll take care of it. Then Abby and Jessica have a little discussion about what's going on, and Jessica finds out from Abby how you train a dog with repetition, reward for pushing the button, and she's like, could the signal be anything? And he's like, could it be like a whistle? And she's like, yes, yes, it could. That's what I'm thinking. Then it goes back to everyone else talking with the sheriff, and Abby and Jessica come on in, and Abby is immediately like, we know how it was done, and tries to basically forces Jessica's hand to tell the sheriff because she wants to give her theory private. And the sheriff's just like, just tell it anyways. What do you got, Jessica? Jessica spins the tale that whoever drove the car up was not Trish, the woman that was killed, but somebody wearing her coat, because you never see her face and we never heard her voice. The guard never. So she comes up, intercoms for the gate, ends up pretending like she passes out. The guard leaves. Then after the guard leaves, then whoever it is gets back up, pulls Trish out of the car, puts her in place, signals for the dog who they trained to push the button, making it push the button, closing the gate, and then leaving. Jessica believes that what Morgana saw was not her sister's ghost, but whoever was pretending to be the sister getting up, and didn't realize then what she'd seen. It was only after she found out that Trish was dead that she kind of conflated the two events. It's a very plausible explanation too. But the sheriff doesn't really buy it because the sheriff ended up finding a whistle, a dog whistle, with Abby Benton Freestone's initials on it. So she gets arrested and put in jail, and she's talking to her cellmate, who ends up being the dog, laying on a bed in the other cell, which is highly amusing. Jessica is then talking with the sheriff and the lawyer, and Jessica tears into the sheriff because the sheriff doesn't really want her help. He's one of those type of sheriffs. We find out by this point. He's like, I've already got a suspect. It all makes sense. He's like, so why don't you just go back where you came from? And good old Jessica calls him, what was it, a gossip monger, among other things. She gets the lawyer to drop her off about half a mile from the house, and she's going to walk. So the lawyer ends up driving off, and Jessica has a look at his tire tracks in the dirt, and is poking around looking for something else. And we find out what that something else is when good old pretty young Will shows up, Deputy Will, and finds out that she is looking for a bicycle clip. Just a plain old bicycle clip. if she can find it. And the next thing you see and Jessica and on a horse, and Echo shows up riding. Jessica wants to find out where the Potts farm is. The old man who accused the dog of biting him. So she goes and rides the horse down and sneaks up to the farm and sees the bandage resting on a shotgun barrel. And she's like, I knew it. So she sneaks in and grabs the bandage and goes to sneak out, only to find her horse that she had left is a different horse. And there's Spencer, who's shown up and yells at the farmer, Potts, who then grabs a shotgun and goes and holds Jessica Fletcher hostage and wants to like put her in the ground because she knows too much. Jessica is like calling their bluff, and she's like, "You're not murderers." She's like, "The worst you'll get is fraud, a couple years in prison." Um, she kind of is being all bluffy and shit because she knows who killed Trish, and she knows who killed Denton as well. And Spencer very much wants to find that out. So he goes and grabs the gun and tells Potts to stop being such a hillbilly. Which Jessica is quite relieved at. Next thing we see is the coroner's inquest. As the sheriff goes and lets the coroner fellow know. And he basically calls Spencer and Potts both idiots for what they did. Before we see Will bringing in a little intercom system, and he's like wondering what in tarnation that is, and Jessica's like, "Oh, that's for me, just a little demonstration I want to do," and she proceeds to lay it all out, everything that happened. We've got the witness, Teddy the dog, and the button that. And the whistle that supposedly was the murdering of Trish. And she sets it all up and basically gets Will to blow the whistle. And there's no sound, but the dog barks because it's an ultrasonic whistle. It's a dog whistle. It doesn't actually make a noise. And then she has him go out into the hall to blow the whistle through the intercom, which he does. And good old Teddy doesn't react at all because even through the loudspeaker, the frequency is too high for the loudspeaker to pick up and transmit. And then we find that she lays out who is the one responsible for it. And as she's laying it all out, that it would be somebody who would benefit from a long, expensive, protracted legal battle. The lawyer. It was the lawyer. Oh my God, Mr. Boswell himself. And he ended up convincing Trish to drug Sawdust. That was the lady we saw at the beginning who drugged the horse. Which killed Mr. Denton. He convinced her to do that. And then when because he told her that she'd get money in the will. Then she found out she wouldn't, so was angry. And he convinced her over drinks. Everything was fine. Don't worry about it. Bashed her on the head. And then brought her drove the car, pretended to be her. Basically splitting the coat seams when he put it on too quickly. And he had a bike to drive away to get home in. But the bike clip fell off, which is where he got the grease on his pants. Everything fits together nice and neat. And then he goes and basically says, "You have no proof. You have no proof at all. Everyone knows him. He's a good guy. Nobody's going to believe this." To which Jessica gets Will to mimic a night bird, and the dog presses the button that she's set up. Ends up pressing the button, and then immediately jumping off the chair and running right over to Boswell, getting up on his hind legs, tail wagging, going, "Where's my treat? Where's my treat?" basically. Which causes good old Boswell to break down in tears right then and there. Just boom, broke down in tears. You've got me. You've got me. And as the episode comes to a close, we see Abby packing up her things, ready to go back to Kent, I guess. And the old fella Tom rolls up, and they call Teddy out and hand the dog over to Tom, because he's going to be looking after the dog and all the money. And he goes and puts the dog in the back of his pickup truck, which that is a thing that nobody is allowed to do anymore. That's like illegal. And the two of them watch the old man and the dog drive away. And as the truck is backing up, you get to see the tailgate of the truck, where it's like Cassidy Kennels, home of the millionaire stud, prize-winning beagles. The millionaire stud, because the dog's worth millions now. It was a cute episode. There was a lot of like rich society and high types being all rah 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 rah, sniping at each other. But it was a very cute episode. I liked a lot of what they did in it. It was really good. Definitely one of the better episodes out there. Especially with the dog and whatnot. It kept me guessing. I thought for sure it was going to be Echo who was the murderer, but right up until almost the end, when she was looking for like the bicycle clip around like half a mile, which was where he said he went and stopped to fix a flat. When she was looking for the bicycle clip there, I'm like, it can't be her. The lawyer's involved somehow. It has to be. I don't know. One of them things. So that's it for this episode of the Murder She Wrote Rewatch podcast. I hope you are enjoying it. If you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell to be kept informed of when I do new videos. And throw a comment in the comment section. What did you think of It's a Dog's Life, if you're watching with me? What do you think of my Murder She Wrote Rewatch podcast? I hope I don't ramble too much while I'm doing it. But yeah, let me know what you think. And throw a comment in the comment section. Get a discussion going. And until next time, my friends, you all take care. And join me next time for murder.